So if we take a look, like here's a map of all the plate boundaries, and we find plate boundaries by looking for volcanoes, and we look for earthquakes and fault lines and geologic formations on the surface, because when the plates hit each other, it causes geologic formations like mountains or mid-ocean trenches and the continental shelf where it dives off. So there's a whole bunch of things we can look for on the surface to find the boundaries. And you may have heard of the Pacific Ring of Fire. And if you look, that's because there's this big plate out here, and all along that boundary we get volcanoes as the molten rock from the asthenosphere and the mantle bubbles up to the surface. Now you can see we actually can map the motion of these plates, and that's what these arrows are showing. Like those plates are moving apart. You'll notice this is in the middle of an ocean. This plate is moving apart again in an ocean. And then we have this boundary going on right here by California, and those two plates are actually sliding past each other. Up here we have two plates running into each other. Down here, two plates running into each other. So the plates can actually hit each other in a few different ways. You can have them collide into each other, slide past each other, or move apart from each other. And we give all these boundaries different names. So we have a convergent boundary where plates come together. And this usually happens right along where an ocean plate meets a continental plate. And you get a trench, and you can get some mountains, you can get some other things going on. Now this is actually two continental plates running into each other, so not ocean on either side, and you have one continental plate that's being pushed up, creating mountains, one continental plate that gets subducted down below, and then of course this rock is going to get heated back up and it's going to melt and rise. Now this is over on in ocean trench. So we've got continental crust and we've got some oceanic crust, and this is happening sort of out here away from the continent. So this plate extends a little bit out past the continent's edge, and so instead of getting a big range of mountains right here, what we see are these islands that form just off the edge of the continent, because this layer where the oceanic crust is subducted below the continental crust creates hot spots, basically a place where the magma can leak up, and we get these volcanic islands that form along that boundary. And then here we have oceanic crust right up against continental crust and right on the boundary, and so we still see the mountains building on the edge, and we get these volcanoes, but instead of the volcanoes being islands out off the continent, they're actually right on the continent. Okay, so convergent boundary, two plates come together, one sinks under the other. When one sinks under the other, that is called subduction. In a divergent boundary, when things diverge, they come apart. So we have two plates separating from each other. This often happens in the middle of oceans, and magma rises up between them and fills that gap. So we actually get, instead of like a deep trench, which you'd think with two plates are coming apart, since that opens a gap for the lava and the magma to pour up through the top, we actually get mountains that are filling in there. So the mid-ocean ridges occur along plate boundaries, and this causes seafloor spreading, and it does open up some cracks, but magma does create some mountains along those cracks. So here's what we have. We've got the magma that can bubble up along the edges, and so new crust is actually being formed out here in the middle of the ocean. And then as that moves and is pushed this way, it'll get subducted underneath, and so you have this pattern of new rock coming up, old rock going down, and everything's getting recycled. Finally, we have a transform boundary, and that's instead of two plates running into each other, they are sliding past each other. This is happening on the coast of the United States, and this one leads to lots and lots of earthquakes, because one plate will snag on another plate, and then it'll start to bend and wrinkle, and then it builds up enough energy, right? That's unstable, that eventually it snaps, and then you have an earthquake that sends out waves and waves and waves of energy, and those can be fairly destructive. In fact, incredibly destructive. So our types of boundaries: transform, divergent, and convergent.